Once upon a time, there lived a great man named Isaac, the son of Abraham. Isaac thrived, having inherited vast wealth from his father. However, a terrible famine struck the land, and as the fields dried up, Isaac began to brainstorm ways to save himself and his family. His wife Rebekah reminded him of the story of his father Abraham, who had gone to Egypt during a famine and returned with riches. Perhaps, Rebekah suggested, God will bless us in Egypt as he blessed your father. Inspired by her words, Isaac considered this plan, believing it was a sign that God would favor them in Egypt as well. That night, the Lord came to Isaac in a dream. "Do not go down to Egypt," the Lord said. "Live in the land of which I shall tell you. I will be with you and bless you." Isaac awoke, puzzled. Why would God want him to remain in a dry, desolate land? He wondered if it was truly God who had spoken to him. The next morning, he shared his dream with Rebekah. "God's ways are higher than ours," she said. "If he has told you to stay, then we should trust and obey. Remember, the same God who led your father to Egypt can bless us here, even in this dry ground." With renewed faith, Isaac decided to remain in Gerar. Days passed with no divine instruction on how he would prosper. Desperate for a sign, he went to what used to be a fertile field outside his house and began to dig, believing that God had miraculously blessed the ground for their sake. But the more he dug, the drier and harder the soil became. Exhausted and disheartened, he paused, sweat dripping from his brow. Rebekah brought him some water and asked, "Has the Lord blessed the ground for us?" Isaac responded, disappointment evident in his voice, "No, the Lord has not blessed the ground, even though we obeyed him and stayed." Rebekah encouraged him, "God never fails on his promises. We must be missing something. If he said he will bless us, then surely he will, unless it wasn't God who spoke to you." Isaac, tired and thirsty, drank from his cup. Some water spilled onto the ground, and as he sat there, he noticed something peculiar. The water that had fallen seemed to moisten the soil rather than evaporate quickly. "Rebekah," Isaac exclaimed, "do you see that the water hasn't dried up?" Rebekah knelt to investigate. "Oh my God," she said, touching the damp soil. "The water is staying." "Isaac, you're right. God didn't say he would bless the land, but that he would be with you and bless you." "Yes," Isaac shouted. "We are the ones meant to bless the land because God's blessing is upon us." With this revelation, Isaac went to the king of Gerar and traded some of his livestock for seeds from the royal silos. The king, thinking Isaac foolish for buying seeds during a famine, gladly made the trade, giving him many seeds. Isaac and his servants planted the seeds in the dry ground, praying fervently for a miracle. They knelt in the field, and Isaac prayed, "Father, I have obeyed you and remained here. By faith, I have planted these seeds. Please send down your rain to water them." Days passed with no rain, and the Philistines mocked their efforts from afar. Rebekah questioned, "Will God surely send rain only on this portion of land?" Isaac's household was devastated, beginning to doubt. A week later, Isaac discussed with Rebekah about possibly moving to Egypt. Just as they were about to conclude, their son Esau entered the tent holding a green, well-nourished plant. "Where did you get this?" Isaac asked. Esau responded, "I plucked it from your field, Papa. There are so many of them. Can I keep this one?" Isaac and Rebekah rushed outside to find their field full of sprouting plants, the ground miraculously well-watered. They shouted praises to God, and their servants, in utter shock and disbelief, joined in the celebration. While all the men and women were celebrating and shouting, Rebekah grabbed Isaac by the hand, looked him in the eyes, and said, "Isaac, how could this be? How come the seeds grow without rain?" Isaac looked at her and said, "Rebekah, I remember my dad once told me a story of how there was no rain on the earth in the beginning, but God caused a mist from the ground to water the earth. It is possible he has watered our crops in a similar manner." So, in that same year, Isaac and his household reaped 100-fold harvest in a time of famine. Isaac began to prosper in the land, and he continued to grow in wealth and influence until he became greater than the king of Gerar. The people of Gerar envied him, for the Lord's blessing was evidently upon him, proving that faith and obedience to God brought unparalleled prosperity. Isaac and Rebekah learned the importance of seeking divine direction and dwelling in the place that God had prepared, no matter how dry the land may look. When Abraham went to Egypt, he was blessed by the land, but when Isaac remained in Gerar, he became a blessing to the land.